I'm Sallie Calhoun, and I'm coming to you from a crop field on the Paicines Ranch in Central California, and thrilled to be making this video to be shared with the folks of the Regenerate Conference. The Regenerate Conference in its original implementation, where we all come together in Albuquerque, is literally my very favorite week of the year. One of the last convenings we were able to host in person was actually to bring together people doing regional pastured meats all over the country and talk about resilience. So we spent 3 days together learning about the theory behind resilience and then talking about what that meant in the meat system. And who would have imagined that a month later we would all be sitting here in the most amazing test of the resilience of this very small little meat system that we've built. By the end of March, we were out talking to the people that we work with all over the country. So as the No Regrets Initiative, we invest in farmers and ranchers and their customers all over the country. And then we also do a lot of grant making to the organizations that are supporting innovative farmers and ranchers. And one of the first things we did after the lockdown and the crisis really started was to go talk to the companies in our investment portfolio. And what we found then and what we have found since is that they have really in general been able to do well during this crisis. That though the large industrial meat system in particular hit some snags, especially early on, most of the companies that we work with this has been an opportunity. They've been able to pivot, they've been able to develop businesses that they had planned or had just started and to be a much bigger part of their business. And so most of them have actually thrived in the midst of all of the chaos that we've been going through. And the same has happened for us here at the Paicines Ranch. So kind of specifically in 2019, we got back into the business of producing pastured meats, a variety of pastured meats. And in 2020, we had decided to increase our production. And we did that, and we were super fortunate in that we were able to pretty easily sell that meat to our neighbors, to the people who live within 100 miles of us. And the thing that was really fun for us was that in our county, traditionally people have not really understood or been interested in the pastured meats that we've raised. We haven't even tried to sell them here. And once the crisis started, we did try, and it's been amazing, the response. People are actually thinking about where their meat comes from and want to support us as being part of their county. The pivot worked well for us. It's been challenging though, because the way we planned to sell our meat this year was to the thousands of people who come to the Paicines Ranch every year for convenings and workshops and weddings and Airbnb. And of course, that's the pivot we had to make because they're not here anymore. So we had to really up our marketing and change our marketing. But I think this is the kind of challenge that we're all going through. And I hope that most people are finding what we're finding, which is that when one part of our business dropped off, that gave us the space and the time and the energy to think about developing another part of our business, which is going to be really useful when this crisis is over, which is sort of, I think, the goal of managing for resilience is that not only do you do well in a crisis, but you use the crisis to position yourself to be in a better spot afterwards than you were when it started. We thought we'd kind of, gotten through the beginning of the pandemic and had figured some things out. And then, of course, we hit the wildfire season. I mean, if you had said in the middle of July that 4 million acres of California were going to burn in the next 3 months, nobody would have believed you. But one lightning storm, one night, and suddenly the state of California is on fire. And it impacted a lot of our friends and neighbors. We are super lucky in that it didn't directly impact us, except for the smoke and the general chaos and terrible quality of life. The message there is that while the pandemic will be behind us at some point, climate change is here to stay. There's a lot baked in. We have decades of adapting to climate change. And so if there's one thing to manage for, boy, 2020 has taught us that it's resilience and the ability to adapt no matter what happens. And it's also hopefully taught us some humility around thinking we know what's going to happen. And I think that's really great. It's taught us that. And the other thing that I really love about the lessons of 2020 are that things that looked impossible can very quickly become possible. What you see behind me is our pastured beef for this season. And we're standing in a crop field that used to be farmed by a large industrial organic producer, and they grew cauliflower here. And it probably would have been bare right now, completely bare, tilled to death and completely bare. We're now following all the 5 principles of soil health, really trying to regenerate our soils, which were seriously degraded as a result of the large-scale industrial organic agriculture, really low soil organic matter, totally bacterial. And now what we've got is we're working on diversity, keeping plants green all year, integrating animals. Basically, we're trying to turn that around and make our landscape more resilient along with our business. And those two things should then feed off of each other and create a more resilient enterprise altogether, leading to a more resilient local economy and a more resilient regional economy. Really having the capacity and the assets, and especially the connections, the network, right, that allows us to be resilient. None of us can be resilient alone. That may be the main thing we all need to remember, is that we can be resilient together way better.